They say every man has a price. Some men sell their honor for power. Some men trade their loyalty for money. And some even sell their very soul to escape their fears. But me, I was the fool who refused. I thought walking away from the devil would save me. Instead, it chained me here, inside this cold prison cell, where the walls breathe with my regrets, and the silence screams louder than any crowd. My name is Daniel Cross. I'm 34 years old. And I am serving a life sentence for a crime I didn't commit. My only sin. I walked away from a deal with the devil. The nights in prison are the longest. The lights flicker, the iron bars hum when the wind rushes past them, and every sound carries like a ghost whispering your name. I sit on the edge of my cot, staring at the cracks on the wall, and I replay that moment over and over again. The moment I could have chosen differently. The moment when I could have taken the deal, walked away rich, untouchable. But no. I told myself I had morals. That I couldn't be like them. And for that, they made sure I'd rot in here. A few years ago, I wasn't the man you see now. I had dreams, ambitions. I was just another guy in his 30s, working hard to build a future. I worked as a contractor, small jobs, renovation projects. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest. I remember the smell of fresh wood in the mornings, the sound of drills, the satisfaction of seeing something broken turn into something beautiful again. That was my life. But honesty doesn't pay bills fast enough. And when you're surrounded by people flashing luxury cars, gold watches, and easy money, temptation becomes hard to ignore. That's when he walked into my life. His name wasn't really the devil. But that's what everyone called him. A man who looked ordinary in the daylight, but carried darkness in his shadow. His real name? Victor Kane. Wealthy businessman on paper. But in reality, a man who controlled half the city through bribes, blood, and fear. I met him through a friend. A friend I trusted too much. He told me, "Daniel, this is your shot. One deal with Victor, and you'll never have to worry about money again." Victor had this smile, calm, polite, almost fatherly. But behind it, his eyes were sharp, like knives dipped in poison. He studied me like he already owned me. "Daniel," he said in his deep, steady voice, "you're a hard-working man. I respect that. But hard work doesn't make you rich. Hard work makes you old. What you need is opportunity. And I'm offering you one." The opportunity he laid out was simple, on the surface. He wanted me to sign off on a construction project, fake permits, and look the other way while his men smuggled goods through the site. It wasn't just illegal. It was dangerous. Drugs. Weapons. Things that destroyed lives. "You'll be compensated generously," he said, sliding an envelope across the table. I didn't have to open it. The thickness of it told me it was more money than I'd seen in years. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Say yes, and you'll be protected. No one will touch you. Say no." He paused. That smile returned, but this time it felt like a blade pressed against my throat. "And you'll regret it." That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in my small apartment, the envelope staring at me from the table like it was alive. I thought about the rent overdue. I thought about my sick mother who needed medication. I thought about how tired I was of struggling. But I also thought about the lives that money came from. Kids ruined by drugs. Families broken. Blood spilled. I told myself, I can't be part of this. I won't sell myself for money. So the next morning, I made my choice. I walked back into Victor's office. The same smile greeted me. The same cold eyes. And I said the words that sealed my fate. I can't do this. For a moment, silence. He just looked at me. Then, he laughed. A slow, soft laugh, as if I had just told him the funniest joke in the world. "Daniel," he said, patting me on the shoulder. "I respect a man with principles. Truly, I do." But then his grip tightened on my shoulder, his voice dropped lower. "Just remember something. Principles don't keep you warm at night. Principles don't feed your family. And principles won't save you when the time comes." I walked out of that office with my head held high, but my stomach twisted. Something inside me whispered, "You just made a deal with the devil by refusing his deal." Days turned into weeks. At first, nothing happened. I thought maybe I was free. Maybe he'd let me go, find someone else. But then little things began. My projects started getting cancelled. Clients suddenly backed out. My bank account froze without warning. People who once called me a friend now avoided me. And then came the night everything collapsed. It was late, around 2 a.m., when the police kicked down my door. Guns drawn. Shouting. Flashlights blinding my eyes. "Daniel Cross, you're under arrest." I didn't even know what for. Until they dragged me outside and I saw the evidence bags. Drugs. Weapons. Cash. Things I had never seen in my life. Suddenly planted in my apartment. Neighbors watched as they shoved me into the back of the car. Some whispered. Some shook their heads. To them, I was already guilty. At the station, the detectives looked at me like I was dirt. They showed me photos, documents, witnesses. All tied back to Victor. But of course, none of it pointed to him. It all pointed to me. I realized then, this wasn't justice. This was punishment. Punishment for saying no. And so here I am. Inside these walls. Serving a life sentence for a crime I didn't commit. I thought walking away from the devil would save me. But instead, it chained me here, to a life I never asked for. The deal I refused didn't just cost me money. It cost me my freedom, my reputation, my entire life. And as I stare into the darkness of the cell, one question burns inside me. Was it worth it? They say prison changes a man. I used to think that meant you either come out stronger, or you come out broken. But the truth? Prison doesn't change you. It reveals you. It strips you down to your bones until you see the raw truth of who you are. For me, that truth was bitter. I was an innocent man living among criminals. And yet, in their eyes, I was one of them. The first day behind bars is something you never forget. The smell of sweat and iron. The clang of the gates shutting behind you. The eyes, hundreds of eyes, studying you like wolves sizing up fresh prey. The guards barked orders like drill sergeants. Move. Faster. The chains on my wrists cut into my skin as they marched me down the endless corridor. And then came the cell. A small, concrete box. A cot, a toilet, for walls that would be my world for the rest of my life. The moment that door slammed shut, I realized, freedom wasn't just lost. It was stolen. At night, I couldn't sleep. The noise never stops. Shouts. Screams. Metal clanging. Somewhere, someone crying quietly, like they didn't want the world to hear. I would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, whispering to myself, I don't belong here. I didn't do this. I'm not like them. But the walls didn't care. The guards didn't care. The system didn't care. And worst of all, the devil who put me here didn't care. In prison, survival isn't about strength. It's about alliances. The first week, I learned that the hard way. At lunch, I sat alone. Tray of food in front of me, barely touched. Then 3 men surrounded me. Tattoos across their arms. Eyes full of menace. One of them, big, scar down his face, slammed his hand on my tray. "You're in my seat." I stammered. I didn't know." He leaned in close, smiling. "Now you do." Then he pushed my food to the floor. Everyone around laughed. I felt the heat of humiliation rise in my chest. But I stayed silent. Because in here, silence can keep you alive. That night, I learned his name, Reaper. The man everyone feared. And the man who had just marked me as weak. But fate is strange. Sometimes, in the darkest places, you find unexpected light. A few days later, I was cornered in the yard. Reaper and his men again. I thought it was over. But before they could lay hands on me, another man stepped in. Tall, muscular, shaved head. Tattoos covering his arms like stories written in ink. His name was Marcus Reed. He looked at Reaper and said calmly, "Not this one." Reaper sneered. "You protecting him now?" Marcus didn't flinch. He just stood there, unshaken, until Reaper backed off with a growl. Later that night, Marcus sat across from me in the common room. "You don't belong here," he said. I laughed bitterly. "You're right. But here I am." He studied me for a moment, then nodded. "You said no to someone powerful, didn't you?" I froze. How did he know? He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Because I did too. And trust me, the devil doesn't forgive." That night, I couldn't escape the memories. Victor's cold eyes. His poisonous smile. The envelope on my table. I dreamed of fire. Of chains tightening around my wrists. Of his voice whispering, "Principles don't save you, Daniel." I woke up drenched in sweat, my heart racing. I sat on the edge of the cot, whispering to myself, "I will not break. I will not give him that satisfaction." But every day in prison chipped away at me. The beatings, the isolation, the humiliation. Sometimes, I wondered if maybe I should have taken the deal. If maybe a corrupted life outside was better than an innocent life inside. Then came the day everything changed. It started small. 2 gangs clashing in the yard. A punch. A knife. Guards rushing in with batons. But then it spread like wildfire. Shouts. Blood. Chaos everywhere. I ducked, trying to stay out of it, but someone grabbed me from behind. Reaper. His fist slammed into my jaw, sending me to the ground. He sneered down at me. "You don't belong here, remember?" He raised the shank in his hand. I thought it was over. But then Marcus came. He tackled Reaper, the 2 of them crashing into the dirt. Guards swarmed in, dragging everyone apart. When it was over, I was left trembling, blood on my lips, heart pounding in my chest. And something inside me snapped. I realized, if I kept staying silent, if I kept letting them treat me like prey, I wouldn't survive this place. Innocent or not, I had to fight back. That night, Marcus sat beside me again. His face was bruised, but his eyes burned with fire. He whispered, "You think this is punishment, Daniel? It's not. It's a message. Victor wanted you gone, but he wanted you to suffer too. That's why you're here." I clenched my fists. The thought of Victor sitting in his mansion, sipping wine, smiling at my downfall, it made my blood boil. Marcus leaned closer. "You want to survive in here? You need purpose. And that purpose is revenge. His words echoed in my head long after he left. Revenge. The very thing I told myself I'd never seek. But now, it was the only thing keeping me alive. So here I am. An innocent man, becoming something else. Prison isn't just a cage. It's a crucible. It burns away who you were, and forces you into who you must become. Victor Kane thought he broke me when he put me in here. But what he really did was awaken a fire inside me. And one day, whether it's inside these walls or beyond them, I will make him pay. Because I may have walked away from the devil once. But now, I'm ready to walk straight back into the fire. People say prison is hell. But what they don't tell you is, hell changes you. It doesn't just cage your body. It eats at your mind. It twists your heart. When I first walked into this place, I was Daniel Hayes, 34 years old, a man who believed in principles, who believed in doing what's right. But now, I'm something else. Something forged by pain. Something sharpened by betrayal. And all of it, because I walked away from a deal with the devil. The weeks after the riot were different. I wasn't invisible anymore. I wasn't just the weak outsider people mocked. Word spread about how Marcus stood for me, how I'd survived Reaper's blade, how I didn't break even when the wolves circled. But survival here comes at a cost. Every day, I felt the darkness growing inside me. The anger, the hate, the desire to fight back. I began to lift weights in the yard. I started sitting with Marcus and his crew. I stopped flinching when someone looked my way. Slowly, I was becoming someone they respected. Or maybe, someone they feared. One night, Marcus leaned across the table, his voice low. You've got the fire now. I can see it. But fire without direction just burns everything down. I frowned. And what direction do I need? He stared at me hard. You need to stop surviving and start planning. Because one day, you're not just going to want to live through this. You're going to want payback. His words dug into my chest. I had spent every night replaying Victor's face in my mind. The way he smiled as I walked away from his offer. The way he twisted the truth in court. The way he made my own friends turn against me. And for the first time, I said it out loud. I want revenge. Marcus smiled, slow and cold. Good. Then let's make sure when the day comes, you're ready. But prison isn't a straight road. The guards, they weren't just keeping us locked up. They were part of the game. Paid off by gangs, blind to the drugs, the fights, the blood. And sometimes, I swore they were paid off by Victor himself. Letters from my appeals vanished. My requests for a hearing got lost. Witnesses who could clear my name never made it to court. The system was a rigged game, and Victor was the one pulling the strings. And so, night after night, my rage grew. Revenge stopped being a dream. It became survival. One day, it all snapped. I was in the yard, walking the track, when Reaper appeared again. His face twisted with hate, scars from the riots still fresh. He shoved me hard. You think you're untouchable now, huh? I said nothing. He pulled out a blade, flashing it in the sunlight. This time, no Marcus to save you. The yard went silent. Everyone watching. And for the first time, I didn't back down. When he swung, I blocked. Rage surged through me. Years of betrayal, humiliation, and injustice exploded. I fought back. Harder than I thought possible. When the guards finally pulled us apart, Reaper was bleeding on the ground. And me. I was standing tall, blood on my knuckles, breathing like a wild animal. That day, everyone in the yard saw the truth. I wasn't prey anymore. I had become something else. Later that night, Marcus found me. "You see it now, don't you?" he said. I nodded, my chest still heaving from the fight. "I'm not just surviving anymore," I said. "I'm preparing." Marcus leaned in, whispering, "Victor Kane doesn't think about you anymore. He thinks you're buried, forgotten. But what he doesn't know is that hell has been forging you. And when the time is right, you'll walk out of here sharper than any blade." But even in the darkest story, there's always a spark of light. For me, it came in the form of a letter. From a stranger. Her name was Emily Carter. A volunteer who wrote to prisoners to remind them they were still human. Her words were simple, gentle. "You may feel forgotten, Daniel, but you are not invisible. Don't let this place decide who you become." For the first time in months, I felt something other than rage. I felt hope. And yet, I also knew that hope alone wouldn't set me free. Months later, chaos struck again. A fire broke out in the south wing. Flames, smoke, alarms blaring. Guards scrambling. Prisoners screaming. In the chaos, I had a choice. Run toward safety, or toward opportunity. Marcus grabbed my arm. "Now's your chance. If you want to send Victor a message, start tonight." We didn't escape the walls. But we did something else. We found a guard, the same guard who had been paid to lose my appeal letters. The same man who worked for Victor. Marcus cornered him. I stared into his terrified eyes. And I whispered, "Tell Victor Hayes is coming for him. Tell him hell didn't break me." Now, as I sit here tonight in this dark cell, I know my life is no longer the same. I came into this place broken, betrayed, innocent. But I will not leave it the same man. Victor Kane thought walking away from his deal was weakness. But it was strength. Because I may have lost my freedom, but I didn't lose my soul. And when the day comes, whether it's in this life or the next, I will have my justice. Because I learned something in here. Something the devil himself taught me. You can cage a man's body, but you can't cage his fire. So if you're listening to my story, remember this. Never trade your soul for safety. Never bow to the devil, no matter how sweet his promises sound. Because the price you pay will always be your life. And now I want to hear from you. If you were in my place, would you take the deal with the devil to save yourself? Or would you walk away like I did, even if it meant losing everything? Tell me in the comments below, because maybe your answer will save someone else from making the same mistake.